gang, I'm Joe Edelman, and welcome to The Last Frame Live. Tonight, let's talk about goals, but, no New Year's resolution kind of stuff, but real photography goals. What's your plan for this year? What do you want to accomplish? We're 11 days in, okay? And of course, I promise to do a little bit of Q&A. Actually, probably a lot of Q&A is my hope. Before we wrap up, I got some other things to share for you too. But as always, I'll do my best to help answer all of your questions within the next 60 minutes. And of course, if you're watching the replay, there are chapters listed below, so you can jump ahead to the sections of the show that interest you the most. And if you're here live, you know the drill. A lot of you are doing it right now. Please leave me a note in the chat. Let me know who you are, where you're watching from. And for those of you watching the replay, no sweat. I appreciate you. Drop a comment below the video so that I know you were here. Let's see, who we got here? We got Dana in Greenfield, Indiana. Bikram from India. Wow, look at that. JDS, Baltimore. Gerhardt's here from Austria. We got Cooley here out in Indiana. Tormod in Norway. I got Danny in New York. James in Indiana. Joe out in California. Philip from Thursday in Australia. James is here from Alaska. I got Edward here in Trinidad. John, I'll see you in Nashville next weekend. I hope I'm going to see you. Alan in Denmark. Jeff in Scotland. How cool is that? Brazil. Come on, guys. How many countries have we just named here? Absolutely awesome. All of you are truly part of a growing global community of photographers in over 100 countries who tune in to watch The Last Frame Live every week. And for that, I'm going to work really hard to help you with your photography tonight. And I got to tell you, I needed that list of names tonight from all of those different countries. I'm sorry, I'm just nerding out a little bit. Really, really cool that we can just communicate with so many people from so many different places around the world. Absolutely awesome. JDS, you're going to be in Nashville for our Saturday 2 to 5 class. Very cool. Looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. In fact, I was talking to the modeling agency today. We're starting to work out the details for the models and the makeup artists. So going to be a good time for sure. Okay. You guys know the drill though. It would help a lot more people learn about The Last Frame. If you could do me a favor, hit that thumbs up below the video. The more thumbs up, the more YouTube shares the show and recommends it to other photographers. And of course, while you're down there, feel free to go ahead and let your photography friends know that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. As always, Twitter, Facebook, they're the fastest way to get the word out. I just gave you the link, lastframe.live. You can also share that too, and it's in the show notes below the video, right? So, a little bit of self-promotion. Let's cover some details really quick, some stuff that I have coming up. And you'll understand as we talk more about tonight's topic, why this little bit of self-promotion is super important tonight, okay? So, number one, next weekend. So we're talking Saturday the 21st, Sunday the 22nd, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of that week, Imaging USA is happening in Nashville. This is the event that is put on by the organization PPA, otherwise known as Professional Photographers of America. Actually, let me take it to the homepage there. We'll do that, okay? This is probably hands down the biggest and the best of the photography trade shows and learning events that is happening in the United States this year. Second, of course, is WPPI. We'll talk about that one in a minute, but this is an outstanding event. And here's the trick for those of you that don't know. Number one, there's still time to sign up. You got, 10 days, 14 hours, and 55 minutes. You can still sign up. You can still go. And the best part of it is if you're not already a PPA member, if you join PPA, which you really should consider, I don't make any money from that, right? I just don't. But you should consider it because your first Imaging USA is free to attend, which is really cool, right? So you just got to get yourself there. And this is being held at the Gaylord Resort down in Nashville, which is amazing. It's like a city under one roof. Really, really incredible. And this particular one holds a little bit of, reminiscing for me because the first big photography trade show presentation that I ever did was for Imaging USA, and it was at the Gaylord in Nashville. So I kind of get to return to the scene of the crime this year. And Saturday, I'll be doing 2 back-to-back 3-hour hands-on classes when portraiture and creativity collide, which is going to be a ton of fun. So RDS, if you're going to be there, you're going to love it. And then Sunday morning, 8 a.m. They always give me the 8 a.m. spot because I guess they figure I can keep people awake for 90 minutes. But I'm going to be doing a talk all about color and color theory, and I'll be demonstrating with a model how I put my color theory to use and how I create the shots that I do. So going to be a lot of fun. And so for those of you that are going to be there, if you want to catch up with me and you want to find me, I am only going to be in town Saturday and Sunday. I'm flying out of Nashville first thing Monday morning, so I won't be there for the whole event this year. Unfortunately, schedule didn't work out for that, so make sure you catch up with me Sunday afternoon. And believe me, I'll be wandering around the trade show, or if you want to see me, you can't find me, drop a message on my social media. We'll make it work. Just look for the red shirt. Right? It's easy to find, okay? And then right after that, I've got a class coming up. This is on January 26th, Thursday. So for those of you that are trying to make money this year or that are trying to build social followings, just to be able to share your stuff, this is part 1 of a 2-parter, Smart Marketing for Photographers in 2023. So this is basically, what do you need to be paying attention to? What's really important for marketing for photographers in our world today, and how are you going to go about, building a business, getting followers, etc. Part 2, which is going to come up a few months from now, that's where we'll get into websites and that kind of stuff. So this is going to be a lot about your brand, a lot about how you present yourself to the world, and of course, social media, right? So I'm actually going to share this link for you in the chat. I'm not going to lie, I don't remember if it's underneath the video, but for those of you that are watching the replay, I will make sure it's underneath the video. So there's that one for you. And then in March, and I'm going to give you another link, March 7th through the 9th, or excuse me, March 5th through the 9th is WPPI in Las Vegas. And I'm just doing one thing there. Actually, I'm doing 2 things. I'm sorry, 2 things there this year. On March 6th, that Monday afternoon, I'm doing a photo walk called How to Pose Without Posing. So I'm going to show you, I talk about it a lot, but I'm going to show you how I go about posing my models. This is not portrait stuff. This is like full-length fashion and some portraits, but without actually having them hold a pose and without having for me to learn 10 poses that I can remember and repeat and all that kind of stuff, right? So that happens on the 6th. And then on the 7th, that morning, I will be in the pit for portfolio reviews. So if you want to sign up to have a portfolio review done while you're at the conference, you can do that. And I will be there, and I'm one of the people that you can have a portfolio review done with. And again, kind of like imaging, I'm going to be in and out of town really pretty quick. I'll be flying in on the Sunday. I present Monday and portfolio reviews Tuesday. And I'm taking a red-eye home Tuesday night, so I won't be there for long. And then in April, which I won't go into details on this one now, but I will tell you, you really ought to check it out because registration's open. Did I share the WPPI link? I did. Registration is open for this, and that is Texas School. So it's filling up, and it's, first come, first serve on the spots. I'm not saying that to get you hyped. Like, it legit is filling up, okay? This is your opportunity to spend a full week with me in Dallas, Texas. So that's like Monday through like Friday at noon, okay? So if you're daring enough and you think you can keep up with me for a week, this is a hands-on learning opportunity for studio shooting, location shooting, everything I do, my entire creative process, the prep, the planning, the lighting, how to find the models, everything, even post-processing, and how can you make money with this stuff? So it's all of it. Really looking forward to that one. It will be my first time at Texas School, so should be a lot of fun. Okay? All right. Next thing I have for you guys, I'm going to share this. Some of you will get a good laugh out of this. Frequently, a lot of you are curious about my career and how it has kind of transpired over the years. So I'm in the process, finally, which a lot of older photographers wind up doing today, is I'm in the process of finally getting a lot of my work from the film days, getting it scanned, negatives, slides, etc. So I'm starting out with my slides. They're just starting to come back from the company who's doing the scans for me. So it's going to be a while before I get a lot of the stuff back. But I came across a couple in the batch that I downloaded yesterday, and I shared them on social media today. A lot of people got a big kick out of them. But I figured I will go ahead and I will share these mainly so that I can kind of give you a little bit of breakdown and also explain a little bit about kind of the working process, right? So the images that I'm talking about, if you didn't see them on social media, here they are. So here's a shot of me. This is like circa maybe as early as 1979. I think it's more probably like 81 or 82. So we're gonna go with early 1980s is when this shot was done. So if you look close in the shot, there's 3 cameras there. And I'll tell you, so straight out of the box, the one that's hanging on my shoulder that's sitting on the top of the donkey bag there, right? You can see that kind of on the side. I think you guys can see my mouse. Yeah, that one there. It's a Nickermat with a 50mm lens on it, and I have no idea why I had the 3rd camera with me that day, so don't ask. I really don't know. But my normal working setup here, whoops, let me get back to those. My normal working setup, you know, there's 2 Nikons there, all right? One of them has a lens on it, one of them doesn't, right? So basically those are 2 Nikon F2s. The one that's in my hand, of course, has a motor drive on it, motor drive that could shoot up to a whopping 4 frames a second, but also has my favorite lens of all time, still really my favorite focal length, which is the 24mm f2.8. But if you look close, you can tell that, number one, the strap on this camera that I'm holding is considerably longer than the one that's up top. So when I would go out to shoot events, I would have 2 cameras on my chest. The bottom camera always had a 180mm f2.8 lens. The top camera had the 24mm f2.8. And sometimes these straps are set up. Sometimes both cameras would have a motor drive on them. Usually just the bottom one, but I had 2 motor drives and could do 2. In this particular case, I had shot through the roll of film in the top camera, the one on the shorter straps, didn't want to take the time to change film. So I pulled the 180 off the bottom camera, shoved it in a pocket, and then switched the 24mm onto the bottom camera and kept shooting. So also back in the day, you know, newspaper photographers had a much better relationship with fire companies and the police and that kind of stuff, mainly because, think about this, you know, early 80s, this is film days, so there were no digital cameras. So anytime there was a crime scene or fire or anything like that, who took the pictures? Usually it was the newspaper photographers. And we had a relationship and understanding that, especially in small towns, that they were confident in knowing the police, et cetera, that we weren't going to go and publish images that we shouldn't. So I frequently photographed dead bodies, crime scenes, even dead autopsies, that kind of stuff for the police. The good part is when something was happening like this, we could always get really, really close. And rarely were we, you know, turned away or told that we couldn't do it. So, you know, in this case, that's obviously me shooting. And then, you know, there's the shot that I'm doing. And then there's, you know, there's one more shot. But the reason why I also wanted to share those, you frequently hear me talk now about the concept of get close, fill the frame. So back in the day, the reason why that 24mm was my favorite lens is it forced me to get really close. And what you wind up with when you look at the picture, like, so obviously none of you were there. When you look at the picture, you have the perspective of almost feeling like you're there, like you're the person taking the picture, like you are experiencing that scene. And that's why I love the 24 for that kind of photography. So certainly today as a portrait photographer, I'm not going to use a 24 very often. It's still my favorite focal length. I use it tons when I photograph my grandkids and stuff like that. If I'm just going to go out, kind of a walkabout, and I want to have a real camera with me, so to speak, the 24 millimeter is hands down going to be the lens that goes, or it's going to be a zoom focal length that covers that 24 millimeter range. So anyway, over the next couple of weeks, I'll share some more of the older images that are getting scanned. A lot of you have asked me before about my photographs of Princess Diana. They're being scanned. Also, I've got some of my earliest fashion shoots and some behind the scenes shots from them, shoots that were done on location, like at the Philadelphia Zoo and at Independence Hall in Philadelphia. So some fun stuff, okay? All right, so that's the stuff I have to share with you for tonight. There is actually, no, you know what? Sorry. I want to rant about something. Not a big rant. Sorry, I'm not going to go crazy, but I do. I don't think this applies to too many people that watch me. But just in the case that it does, I want to say something about it. Now, let me be clear, because I'm gonna break one of my own rules, things that I don't like. If you follow me long and if you listen to me much, you know that I'm not a big fan of opinions, especially when it's just opinions that are just griping about something, right? And I'm not gonna lie, like, for whatever reason, it seems like Gen Xers, like, you know, my age, and baby boomers, you get on social media, like, you feel the need to have to give your opinion on everything. Some of you may have noticed, like, the photo quotes that I post every day. It amazes me how many times a day I get comments, dismissive comments on those quotes where somebody disagrees with the photographer's quote. And so the funny part is they haven't actually read the post, so they don't understand what that quote is there for. They think I'm saying it, right? And the comment is like, "That's wrong." 2 words. "That's wrong." Or better yet, it's like, "That's ridiculous. I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this." Who cares? Did anybody ask? Not to mention, these are quotes from extremely successful photographers, and, you know, some idiot who is always Gen X or baby boomer who is not really good at photography, who has a contrary opinion because of something that they watched on YouTube. So if you haven't ever noticed that, I delete them, because I'm not going to engage with that person. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to dignify their foolishness. But I've been seeing a lot of conversations about this topic. And there was a blog article today in Petapixel. And it's about, do you tip photographers? And if so, how much? And I'm not going to lie, like, you know, as I said, I've been hearing about this, and I've kind of just been tuning it out until I saw this article today. And then I started kind of reading through it and reading about these photographers, kind of giving their tips, pun intended, for how they get people to give them tips, right? And I got to tell you, maybe I'm just an old fart for feeling this way, because, you know, I am at that age where I guess I have to accept the fact that I'm getting old, right? Please don't ever be this photographer. And it's multiple photographers, so we're not talking about one person here, but any of them that are in here, you're photographers, you do not deserve tips. When I see this conversation, and I don't care what context it's in, when I see this conversation, I'm sorry, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, as a photographer, if tips are important to your income, you have several problems that are easily fixed. 1, you need to improve the quality of your photography. 2, more importantly, actually, you're setting your prices too low. Generally, we don't tip a plumber. We don't tip an electrician. Why don't we tip them? We don't tip them because we usually think they're kind of expensive, right? But as long as they're good at what they do, we happily pay them because we need their services. We certainly don't tip doctors, And some people say, yeah, look how much money they make. You know what? Doctors don't make near as much as they used to. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm not feeling sorry for them. But at the same time, they don't make near as much as what they used to. And they have to do a lot more work to be able to earn that money in the first place, educationally. Right. So, okay, that's the payoff. Same with lawyers. Right. We don't tip these people. I'm sorry, but my opinion, please don't be that photographer that asks for a tip, hints at a tip, suggests a tip, and worst of all, expects a tip. Maybe you've been tipped without having to ask for it. And if that happens, good for you. Personally, for me, I would refuse it. I would absolutely refuse it. And if somebody handed me the money and took off before I could give it back, I'd take whatever that amount of money is and I would get a print or something made of similar value and I would give it to them as a gift, as a thank you. Because I gave them a fair rate to make the money that I want to make and I provided a service. And as always, I'm still going to try and go above and beyond on that service. But nonetheless, I don't believe I should be tipped. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. That's my opinion. I find it mind-boggling that this is a conversation that we're having. And look, I understand, the world evolves and things change, and absolutely, but you're not going to convince me that that is good evolution. You're just not. Okay? All right, so on top of having people here literally from all over the world tonight, I'm very excited because as I've been talking, I've seen quite a few people that have shared what their plans and their goals are for the year. Normally, I'm kind of pulling teeth to get information out of you guys. So thank you. This is great. Okay. So, listen, I don't have a big lecture for you tonight. I literally don't. I really want to create awareness, as far as what are your goals? What's your plan? I told you guys over the last couple of weeks when I've talked about kind of where the industry wound up last year and where I think it's going this year. I mentioned several times, I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. So none of this is about resolutions. And I would strongly discourage that because statistically, we fall flat on our resolutions. But as a business person, you need to have some plans and some goals. And even if you're not doing it for business, if you're just doing it for fun, if you want to improve, if you want to get better, you should be setting some goals for yourself, right? Some things to work towards. And the reason why, it all comes back, regardless, business or for fun, it comes back to one word. And it's a good word. And that word is simply accountability, right? It's making yourself accountable to yourself, right? It's easy to say, well, I want to get better at my photography, but what does that mean? How are you going to do that? You're going to watch a bunch of YouTube videos? Oh, I'm sorry, you're not going to get better at your photography by watching YouTube. And don't be the person, it's like, yeah, but I learned so much better via YouTube videos because it's like visual and I understand it better. I hate a couple things I hate to tell you from the guy that's married to a cognitive psychologist. Right? Number one, you don't learn better visually than you do in a book or tactile, touching, doing. You don't. There's research that proves that out time and time and time again. You may prefer it. You may like it better that way, but it's actually not better. And the fact of the matter is, the best of all the options, reading, listening, watching, doing, what do you think is best? Hands down, doing. You learn more by doing, period, right? So if I was gonna give you an advice of what you should be, doing to set your goals, one of the goals that I would give you would be stay the hell off of YouTube. Even if it means you're not seeing me, I'll miss you. But seriously, if this hour happens to be at a point in time where, there's light and you can pick up a camera, go take pictures, my God, go do that. Go do that. That's actually a piece of my plans, which I'll explain. Okay. So I want to go back here. I'm going to go back through some of these that are in here because there's actually some really good ones. Actually, before we became live, James in Alaska says, I plan to accept that I have gas. Okay, good. You know, it's first step is admitting that it's a problem, right? And actually study the manual for the camera I just brought. Good. I'll give you a tip for that, along with others, and actually practice a certain amount weekly taking photos. Cool. So out of all that, James, obviously the gas thing, that we're going to take that as a separate issue, but the manual and the practicing, definitely prioritize the practicing. And that's not to say don't worry about the manual. The manual is important, but I'm going to give you a suggestion for how to actually go about reading your manual. Because look, I don't care how long you've been taking pictures, even for me, reading a manual is a brutal process. So I've got a really good suggestion for you on how to do it. But obviously, you know, finding the time to actually take pictures. But I'm going to challenge you with your idea of practicing a certain amount of time a week. The challenge that I'm going to give you is try not to let it turn into a chore where like, oh my God, I haven't got my 2 hours in this week, right? Try to really kind of think of it more in terms of just, you know, I haven't picked up my camera in a while and I miss it. Because here's the thing, if you're not missing it, that ought to be telling you something. And I'm not saying, oh, like quit photography, get rid of your camera. No, but when it comes to the gas, you know, maybe then we need to be evaluating, well, maybe it's not that I'm really into photography, I'm just into toys. And some people are, right? So there you have to decide. But here's a tip for all of you as far as reading manuals, because I know there's a lot of you that are listening right now who have not read your manuals to the degree that you should. You know, I get it. A lot of you flip through the book or you download the PDF, and maybe you're even smart enough to stick it on your phone, because if you don't have your manual on your phone, what the heck? Why not? Seriously, think about it. Why do you not have your camera manual on your phone? Every camera on the market today, the manual is available as a PDF. Put it on your phone. It is a resource. This thing never leaves your side. It's with you. It's with you if you're using the camera on location. It's with you if you're using the camera in a studio. It's with you if you're sitting watching television and the show that your wife picked is really kind of boring, so you decide, I'm going to learn a little bit. It's with you all the time, right? Make sure it's on your phone. But here's what you do when you start this process of, hey, I got to read my manual. And by the way, I don't care if you've had your camera 3 years and you haven't actually read the manual yet, it's not too late to do this process, because even if you wind up buying a new camera sometime later this year, this exercise will speed you through the manual of the second camera. So what you do, and you can do this even on a PDF, because some camera companies now don't actually print a manual. Some of you are aware of that, others may not be. But even if you're in a PDF, the PDF has a highlighting feature. So, and by the way, this technique works if you just bought your very first camera ever yesterday, or if you've been shooting for 30 years. This technique works. You need a highlighter, or you work in Adobe Acrobat Reader with the highlighter tool turned on, and you read the entire manual front to back in as short a time as you can, you know, realistically. So I'm not saying you got to sit down and not get up for 4 hours, right? But try not to let the actual first pass of the reading, try not to have that take a month. Try and get it done in the course of a week if you can. But here's how you get through it in one piece, because for some of you, especially if you're just starting out, it's going to be like overwhelming. You're going to be reading stuff, and of course, you're thinking, what the hell is that? I don't know what that is. It's okay. This is a no-stress process. Literally, this is a no-stress process, okay? When you go through the manual the first time with your highlighter, anytime you come across a sentence or a section or a term that you don't understand, just highlight it. Just highlight it. So that means for a lot of you that are really new to photography, by the time you're done, you're going to have a very colorful camera manual. That's okay. It's totally okay. Again, do not stress about this first pass. You're not going to stress about any of the passes, but don't stress about the first pass. Just highlight the stuff that you don't understand. And if you've been shooting for a while, you're going to come to sections where you've heard the phrases that they're talking about. But being honest with yourself, do I actually understand what they're talking about? Be honest with yourself. Otherwise, you're not helping yourself. You are wasting your time then, right? So if you don't understand it, highlight it, and that's okay, and keep moving on. The goal is to get through the entire book once, because then when Joe starts giving you a hard time about the manual, you can say, well, I have read it once. Okay, cool, right? But then here's the part that may take you 6 months, may take you a year, because you're going to do it at your convenience, but you're going to stick with it and do it. And that is the second time through the book, you're going to go directly to the highlighted sections, and you're going to open up a web browser, and you're going to hit Google, and you're going to type in, what is focus stacking? Right? What is EV? What is exposure compensation? What are all these different things? If you don't know what it is, type it in. And you're going to go learn what it is. And better yet, let's say it is something like focus stacking. Don't just read about it. After you go to Google and you type it in and you figure out what it is, go back to the book, because it's a multi-step process. It can seem kind of complicated, but now, at least now you know what they're talking about, and you understand what the settings are that they're talking about, because you've Googled them. Set something on a table in front of you, anything, set it down, and do a picture with focus stacking. If you have a tripod, use a tripod. If you don't, set the camera on a table and photograph a coffee mug in front of it, whatever, and do focus stacking and try it out. That's how you read a manual. And that's how you actually speed up the process of really learning how your camera works, right? So the goal isn't to have it take a whole year, but if it takes you that long, it takes you that long. The point is just to make sure that you keep moving forward, and you have to prioritize it, right? Because honestly, about 85% of the features in your camera that you're going to read about in the camera manual, you will only use occasionally. And when I say occasionally, in some cases, it might be rarely. Only 85%. So it's like, wow, I spent all that money and 85% of the stuff I'm hardly ever going to use? Honest. That's right. But that's okay. They are tools. They are tools that are available to help you do the most important thing that a photographer knows how to do: solve problems. Because that's where the good pictures are. The result of you solving a problem. They are the tools that you're going to be able to use to do it. So you won't use them every time you take a picture. Literally, that'll be about 15% of what your camera's capable of doing that you'll use every time. That's going to be, you know, the shutter speed, the aperture, the ISO, all that kind of stuff, right? Frame rates, autofocus, those things. Those are the things you're dealing with all the time. 85% of it you're going to use occasionally. They are tools. But the more that you understand them, the more that you know how they work, even from an understanding level, maybe you don't remember step 1, step 2, step 3, but you understand, hey, this will do this. Now you have a tool to solve a problem. And then the reason for having that PDF on your phone, maybe you only use focus stacking once a year. So the first time you go to use it could be 6 months down the road, and you're not going to remember step 1, step 2, step 3 for setting it up. But you understand what it can do for you. You know it's going to help you solve the problem. You pull out the phone. It's like, where is it? Focus stacking. Okay, do this, do that, do this. Let me test it. Look, I'm right where I need to be. Boom. Problem solved. That's how you read a camera manual. Okay? All right. Who do we have next here? Let's see. Scrolling on down. Cooley asked, is there a battery pack that I can use with Photogenic Powerlight 600s for location? Ooh, I'm pretty sure, Cooley, that Photogenic sells a battery pack. I may be wrong. The problem with Photogenic, I believe they were bought out by not imaging brands, the same company that owns like PhotoFlex and those, which means that basically they're not making a lot of new products. So off the top of my head, I don't know specifically. That would actually be a great question to pick up the phone one day and call the lighting department at like a B&H Photo or an Adorama, where you'll find salespeople that they know every freaking piece of gear that's out there. And they'll be able to help you hack it in terms of what kind of power source will work for you. I will tell you it's probably going to be pretty doggone expensive, and not necessarily super fluid, but it'd be worth asking, just to see. Okay. Daniel, his plans for the year: refine his product photography with 3D study. Okay, cool. There's a lot of people that have been talking about that. I know if you follow guys like Carl Taylor, he's been, talking about using 3D and CGI. And honestly, it makes sense. You've heard me talk before about my son and daughter-in-law having this kind of side hustle business where they make candles, both in glass and in concrete fixtures. And for the glass fixtures, I'm not doing 3D with it yet, but I did kind of a similar scenario where I have photographed the 3 types of containers that they have, photograph them from various angles and with various lighting sizes, and then I can swap backgrounds and bases out really easily with the images that I've created that basically sit in templates. So it's really easy for me to change locations and settings and things like that. For product work, all of that kind of stuff is definitely the future, and it's great because it simply makes sense. It's time saving, which means it's money saving, right? And ironically, when you do it right, it's also increasing the quality of the output. So it's a great thing. Okay. Let's see. Who is Seraphin? I've started a photography project to get a minimum of 100 portrait photos of the people in the food industry who served me. Actually, that sounds really cool. I hope that as you progress through that, you will share that with us. I would love to see that. I think that's really, really neat. So let's see here, scrolling on down. Edward, I really love your tutorials and in-depth explanation on all your topics. Thank you. Much blessings to you and your crew. Awesome. I really appreciate that, Edward. And let's see, Philip says he wants to learn more about astrophotography using a star tracker down under, and eventually, maybe so deeply. Okay, not sure what that means, but astrophotography, yeah. I mean, Philip, there are quite a few photographers out there, not only doing some amazing astrophotography, but also writing articles about it, teaching about it. So yeah, I mean, my advice to you, again, not to be the anti-YouTube guy as I sit here talking on YouTube, but find an instructor, maybe someone on YouTube, who you connect with in the sense of you really like the way they teach, you really understand the way they teach. Stick with that person. Look, one of the biggest mistakes that people make in trying to learn with YouTube is they watch as many videos as they can about any given topic. Well, the fact of the matter is, in photography, pick any topic, and there's like 1,000 ways to approach it. None of them are wrong. So when you're trying to learn, that's just overwhelming, right? And none of those videos start out by saying, well, if you approach it this way, compared to this way, this way, this way, and this way, they don't give you that context. Even my videos don't give you that context, right? So that's not helping you. Find an instructor who you really connect with, you like their work, you like the way they teach, stick with them until you're feeling a little confident about it. I'm not saying like you feel like you've mastered it, but feeling like, okay, I got this and I can do this. Then it's worth going out and finding another person to watch, not 3 more, not 5 more, one other one who maybe does things a little bit differently, and then start to watch them, because then you're going to be able to connect the dots. You're going to be able to connect the dots in terms of, well, why does this new guy or girl, why do they do it this way instead of the way that I learned from this guy? And even if you can't connect the dots and figure out why, now you have a very intelligent question to ask the new person that is actually going to help you understand, as opposed to watching a whole bunch of videos and it's like, well, crap, some people do it this way, some people do it that way. What's the best way? People think that they've got to watch all these videos and figure out which one's the best way and then do it that way. That's stupid. It's actually straight. It's stupid from a practical standpoint, and it's not just a photography thing. It's a learning thing. It's not how we learn, right? Find one instructor and stick with them. That's why you guys hear me, get so irritated when every now and then somebody new shows up and somebody asks a question and they feel like they have to answer everybody's question. It's like, whoa, hey, look, where I went to school, there was only ever one teacher. There's a reason why you only ever have one teacher in a classroom. Seriously, there's a reason, right? It works. If it would be better to have 2 or 3 teachers with conflicting opinions in a classroom, don't you think that society would have done that by now? We would have, right? But it's not better. So don't create that situation for yourself, right? So that's on you, folks, as people that watch too many YouTube videos. That's on you. And then, of course, there are quite a few of you who kid yourself. And look, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm being honest. You got to be straight with yourself about this YouTube stuff, right? In other words, you call it education. You say, oh, I'm learning. Oh, I listen to Joe, man. I always learn some little nugget. Do you really? Or do you just enjoy the entertainment of watching these videos? This guy's really funny. This guy, watch Joe. Somebody says the wrong thing, he'll have a fit. Whatever. Okay? It's entertainment. If that's why you're watching it, okay. But then don't kid yourself into thinking that that's actually helping your photography, because it's not. Okay. Steve H, more street photography in 23. Cool. My challenge to you, if you don't do so already, shoot street with a 24. Okay. And then you're going to have images that really draw people in, and you're going to learn a lot about people and street photography. Dusty from Toronto, plan for the year is to learn, practice, and get to a point where I'm comfortable charging money for my work. And Dusty he's a member of the Todd's Knowledge community. It's a big part of how you intend to do that. Awesome. In fact, Dusty, my recommendation to you is the self-portrait that you just posted in the photo share channel with your permission. So leave a comment under that self-portrait. I would really like to move that over to the photo help channel, because I've got some feedback for you that I think would be really, really helpful, but it's in photo share, which is love only. So I can't give you the feedback there. Okay. So you let me know in the community if it's okay for me to move it, and I'll move it over, and then I'll do a video breakdown on it, and I'll give you that feedback to help you out. Okay. All right. From Patrick, now that I have a room to have an at-home studio, I hope to start creating more again and improve my portfolio with more of the images that I want to be hard to take. Awesome. Patrick, if you haven't watched my video, it's an older one, but it's still completely on point about setting up a home studio. Make sure you watch it. It's on my channel. I will see if I can track it down for you before we get off here. But if not, just click on the little magnifying glass on my channel, not the search bar up top, the magnifying glass, and type in home studio, and there's a full breakdown. It'll give you a lot of tips actually for space saving things, ways to be able to mount lights up off the floor, all that kind of stuff. Because with any home studio, space is always a certain, amount of a factor, and that's okay, but it will help you to be as efficient as possible with how you set the space up and use it. Okay. Let's see. Dan here, my goal for 2023 is to learn Photoshop and start using my Rolleiflex twin lens reflex camera. Wow, haven't heard that phrase in a while. So number one, very good for you for Photoshop. Dive in, have fun. Dan, the thing that I was just talking about finding one instructor when it comes to Photoshop, oh my God. There's tons of Photoshop videos out there, but it's going to spin you in circles, because you could take any feature of Photoshop, let's say masking. I'll find you 75 videos, all which do it slightly different. So even if you watch 5 of them, you're screwed. Legit. Find one instructor, learn as much as you can about Photoshop from that instructor, and then find a second one down the road. And that's going to be a year down the road minimum. My personal recommendation for Photoshop instructors online, Unmestinde Pix Imperfect. It's all one word, Pixim perfect. Best Photoshop instructor out there. No disrespect to the great Mr. Scott Kelby, but Scott doesn't do nearly as much teaching at this point, not, focus just on Photoshop. Unmesh is awesome. His pacing is excellent. He's extremely detail-oriented. Highly recommend him. In fact, for those of you that are going to be at Imaging next weekend, Unmesh is going to be there from India. He'll be in Nashville. So make sure you track him down and find him. He's a fun guy, absolutely great. And as far as I'm concerned, he's hands down the best Photoshop instructor out there. Okay. Wilson, goals for 23, further enhance our client experience, pushing the creative process, and double studio sales. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. I hope that you have updated your business plan for the year to help drive that process. And I got to say, congratulations. I'm thrilled when photographers start out this sentence, especially, when they're running a business and, they're already making the bucks and they're looking to build that business. But when they start out that plan with further the client experience, the best way, aside from great photography, folks, right? It's a given. If you're going to make money, your work better be good, period. So aside from the great photography, the best way to increase the perceived value of your photography, in other words, to help people look at your work and say, oh my God, it's worth that much money, is by the experience that you provide to your clients. So Wilson, awesome for you for having that first on that list, because that is indeed a huge piece of it. Okay. Let's see. TC, can you talk about camera ISO settings for Sony a7 IV indoors, LED mixed with incandescent? Advanced beginner here. Well, TC, you got to give me a little bit more than that, right? So because you're mixing things, right? If we're talking about ISO settings, that's got nothing to do with indoor LED mixed with incandescent, unless you're basically trying to tell me that's how bright it's going to be. But the problem with that is I have no idea how bright the LED lights and the incandescent lights are in the room that you're going to be shooting in. So you got to give me a little bit more context, right? Tell me, what is it your photo? Is it a portrait? Is it an event? Tell me what kind of lens you're planning on using and what the maximum aperture is. And you still got a few minutes here, so type fast, but give me that information and I can help you a lot better. But because honestly, what I'm going to tell you there is set it at the ISO you need to take the picture. With the Sony a7 IV, I wouldn't be worried too much about your ISO, unless you're being unrealistic with your aperture and shutter speed selections. If you want to shoot at 1/8,000th of a second at f/16 in indoor LED mixed incandescent, that's going to be problematic because you're going to need an ISO that's going to be through the roof. But otherwise, I've been thrilled with the high ISO capabilities of the Sony a7 IVs. I've had no issues with them. So give me a little bit more details and I can certainly help you out. Okay. Let's see here. James, my goal is to make my photography business more successful this year. I plan on attending more of your classes this year on marketing and business and to be more active on social media. Yeah. And look, I shouldn't say I've never met a photographer who hasn't struggled with social media, but I will say the overwhelming majority of photographers, especially when they're new to the business side of photography, struggle with social media. And that's because, I've never met the person who's picked up a camera and fallen in love with that camera and kind of gotten bit by the bug, so to speak, because they wanted to have to talk about themselves and their work on social media. Like, I've never met that person, right? I've seen a lot of people that are hooked on social media go out and get into photography to support that, but not the other way around, right? So there's a learning curve, and it's a steep learning curve in the sense that photographers also, creative types in general, tend to be a little bit introverted, right? Not all, but quite a few, or shy, right? So it's one of those things, much like I talk about other aspects of photography, the best thing you can do, James, is just dive in and start. Don't read too many books on it. Don't be reading all kind of blog articles, because honestly, just like photography, there's, thousands of articles that contradict each other. Not that they're wrong, but again, what they don't do is they don't give you enough context to figure out, well, does this really apply to me? Even though it says I should be posting on Facebook every Wednesday at 2:00, whatever, no. So the best thing you can do is start, because the hardest part of social media, in my opinion,
The hardest part is turning it into a habit. Almost anything, it's even like exercise, right? Once exercise becomes a habit, it's a lot easier, right? So the biggest challenge for the social media thing is make it a habit. The sooner you get the habit going, then it's a lot easier, because also then you will have already begun the process of trial and error. You'll be able to start looking at posts that you've been doing and saying, wow, this one did really well. I wonder why. What did I do different on this post than I did in all these other posts? What was different? Was it a certain time of the day? Like, I never post on Friday, but this one was a Friday and it did really, really well. Maybe I should post more Fridays, right? Whatever. And I'm not saying you should be posting Fridays. I'm just saying, you know, once you start getting a stream of posts in, then you can start going back and you can start looking at things to figure out what's going to make a difference, right? So the sooner you start, the better, okay? Let's see, TC. So I'm scrolling on. Another goal from TC is to get enough money for a good 24-70 lens for the Sony a7 IV, the sharpest I can afford. So first of all, sharpest you can afford. TC, do you actually think any companies make blurry lenses? Is that a marketing thing? No. Look, if you're on a budget, do what smart photographers do. I'm not on a budget. I can afford expensive gear. I don't own Sony lenses, TC. I have a Sony a7 IV and I shoot with Tamron lenses, right? Get the 28-75. It's a freaking amazing lens. Or even get one of the lenses that cover an even bigger range, right? The 35-150 that's an f2.8 f2. Amazing lens. All right? Stay off of YouTube. Seriously, that's your problem. When you're saying the sharpest I can afford, because you've been on YouTube and one idiot says, well, this lens bench tests so much better in the corners than this lens, and this lens is sharper in the center than this lens. And the fact of the matter is, you don't know what the sharpest lens is. And the fact of the matter is, throw all that shit out and take a Tamron, take a Sigma, take an Iowa, and take a Sony. Let's throw in Zeiss for good measure. Take a picture with all of them. You take a picture with all of them. Put it on your computer. I'm not saying that you should blow it up to 4,000%, because how often are you actually going to do that with your photography? I'm saying just look at it at 100%. You tell me which one's not sharp and don't buy that lens, because you're going to have a bigger problem. They're all going to be sharp, right? They just are. So you got to look at where do you get the best quality for your money. Instead of worrying about what's the sharpest that you can afford, TC, let me put it this way. In fact, here, let me find the article, and I'm going to share a link with you. You need to read this. I can't believe you haven't read this. I'm not sponsored by Tamron. Tamron has paid me one time to do one presentation that was sponsored by them. That's it. I'm not a Tamron ambassador, so let's be very clear, all right? And I was not paid to write this article. I was not paid to use their lenses, and I purchased all my Tamron lenses. It was my choice. I refused to pay money for Sony lenses, right? But I want you to read this article when you get a chance, TC, and I want you to notice that for all the lens companies, I'm going to give you a breakdown. Sony lenses, 1-year warranty. Canon lenses, 1-year warranty. Nikon lenses, 1-year warranty. Fuji lenses, 1-year warranty. Sigma lenses, 4-year warranty. Whoa. Tamron lenses, 6-year warranty. So if that Sony lens is a tiny little bit sharper, in a way that you're not going to see it, because you're not going to see it, which lens is a better value? The one that costs you less money and is covered for 6 years, or the one that maybe is going to bench test just a smidge sharper in the corners, but it's only got a 1-year warranty, and then you're on your own. You tell me which one's the smarter one to buy. Come on, man. Think that through, right? Okay? So let's see. What else do I got going on here? Wilson, your wife may be doing the Jedi mind trick on you. I have no doubt about that. Trust me. Let's see. Cooley, the goal is to photograph more landscapes and travel to more locations and do them. Awesome. Always good to get out and about. Nick, I plan on, how's it going, Nick? I hope all is well. Plan to start doing more studio portraiture again, and I'm going to find a hair and makeup artist to work with. Awesome. The difference in results with and without is night and day. Yeah, it is for sure. Cooley, he's coming after my job. He wants to teach more photography class, or teach some photography classes. There you go. Okay. Let's see, Ron, I also have some scanning to do. My wife's got all the old family photos from my mom and wants to send them, wants them saved and restored. Cool. And, Ron, be honest about, what will really wind up happening with those photos. And what I mean by that is this. So I mentioned, like, I'm sending some of my, early film work out to get scanned finally after all these years. And honestly, I'm doing it mainly for sentimental reasons. Like, look, it's not like, I'm not like a David Hume Kennerly where my work is going to go and be preserved in, a college, and that kind of thing forever. I'm doing it for me, for sentimental reasons. Not to mention I have slides and negatives of my son when he was little, and I want him to have those. Plus, I'd love for his kids to be able to see them, that kind of stuff. But when my mother passed away, she was the, photo album keeper of the family, and indeed had tons of photo albums. And, it's pictures of me when I was a baby and a toddler and, family pictures and things like that. And I'll tell you what I did, honestly. There's a bunch of different apps. I digitized most of them with my phone. And the quality is freaking awesome. Now, they were all in pretty good shape. Even ones that needed some simple retouching, like maybe it had a crease through it. Phone worked out great. Put a little bit of effort into what kind of lighting you're working with so you don't have glare and reflection, etc. Put a little, you're a photographer, so put a little extra effort into making sure that, you've got that phone properly leveled off and you're not doing it on angle, because the app will adjust, right? But no, just get it squared away, fill the frame with it so you're getting the maximum quality out of it. But, unless you're going to take these files and most of these old snapshots are small, maybe even like an 8x10, right? Go look at the print size of the files that come out of your phone. How big a file do you need to scan, right? So don't be afraid to use the phone. At least try it out. You'll be amazed. And they have a lot of apps that will do it now, even apps that will do negatives where literally you hold it up to a window, that type of stuff. Like, it's pretty impressive. But again, since these were professional photographs that I'm talking about that I shot for work, I want to get higher resolution scans of these. But my family stuff, my personal stuff, I scanned hundreds of images when my mother passed away. And I still have them stored away in a box somewhere, but we all know how that can happen, right? Things can go bad there. So, I scanned tons of it, and I used my phone, and they were great, okay? Let's see here. Joe Conti, Photoshop instructor I learn a lot from is Gavin Hoey. Yeah, and I'll be honest with you. Look, I love Gavin. Gavin's the guy that got me hooked up with Olympus. But here's why I don't recommend it for a new person that you use Gavin. Because he doesn't focus strictly on Photoshop. Gavin is awesome. He's an awesome instructor, period, okay? But he doesn't focus strictly on Photoshop. Unmesh Dinda is post-processing, period. So yeah, every now and then he'll be talking about Skylum or DxO or that kind of stuff, but he primarily focuses on Adobe products, and everything he does is post-processing. So that's why I wouldn't recommend a person like Gavin for somebody that's just getting started, okay? John, I'll be relocating early this year. How should I get the word out in the new area about my business? So since I'm almost at time, John, I'm actually not going to answer that one now, but I know that you are in my community. Post that question in the community and we can talk about that. I can definitely give you some ideas. You're going to need to do a little bit of networking if you're smart. So not just social media type things, but actually physically in person, do some networking. And if you pick the right networking situations, you can limit the amount of in-person networking that you actually have to do. So TC, back to answer my question, that shot that he wants to do with the mixed lighting, it's people and decor indoors. He says he can't get color corrected inside with flash, LED camera lights, or no help. With flash, okay, LED camera lights or no help. TC also try to get good shots of the Christmas tree that has a mix of LED and incandescent lights. So here's the thing. And unfortunately, it's 7 o'clock, so I'm out of time. But let me explain this. Based on the question you're asking me, TC, you're actually not understanding how to use the white balance on your camera. I can tell you that right now. You're not doing things efficiently. Here's what I would recommend to you, because this is not a question that I'm going to be able to answer quickly in the last frame. TC, what you need to do is you need to go and you need to sign up for my Tog Knowledge community, right? Now, look, just in case you can't afford $6 a month to join this community. $6, right? That's okay, no judgment. When you get to the link, in fact, I'll share the link here, all right? There's a 14-day free trial. So if you join, sign up for the free trial, and you're going to post this information in detail once you join in the community. And I will be able to, oh, TC, I'm a she. I'm sorry, okay? But join the community, and I'll be able to help you break it down. And I can get you the answers that you need. I'd gladly help you, but this one's going to take a little bit more than just something that I can answer in passing here. Sign up for the free trial. If you can't continue, I completely understand. I'm not going to be offended, right? But when you get in there, and just like I said tonight, remember, when you post a question, the more detail, the better. You're going to want to post the question in the community center. So when you join and get in there, in case you're like not sure where do you post it, look for the channel that's called Community Center. You'll see it right near the top of the page. Post it in there, and you'll be able to get lots of help, and I'll be able to break it down for you. And what I can tell you is every Thursday evening, so tomorrow night, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the U.S., I host a community meetup on Zoom for the Tog Knowledge community, right? So as a member of Tog Knowledge, even when you're still on the free trial, you can attend the Zoom. That's actually a perfect setting for me to be able to break it down and not only show you some examples, but show you how to solve that problem. So I promise you, I can definitely help you out with it. Would love to. We can either do it in one of the channels of the community, or we can do it during a live community meetup, which would actually be this would be a fun topic to take on in the community meetup. So I hope I get to see you in there. All right, gang, I got to run. So here's the bad side. I didn't get to tell you what my plans are. So I owe it to you. Next week, I promise, no games. I will tell you what my plans, because I do. I have a couple things that I'm really excited about, but I will make sure that next week I have some more of these scanned images to share with you, and I will break down what my plans are for the year. And then for those of you that didn't have anything to share tonight because I kind of caught you off guard, give this some thought, right? Because again, it's all about holding yourself accountable for improving your work, and you can share your goals next week as well. Bottom line, gang, you know the drill. You've got less time left to improve your photography than you did yesterday. So please, this week, go pick up the camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. Adios, gang. Take care.